Prime Minister Mark Carney and Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne will table their first budget today. The budget is expected to include cuts to public service and increases in military and defense spending. Let's bring in CTV Chief Political Correspondent Vassy Kapelos with a preview. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
And I think before we start this, just in case people at home aren't aware, this is what Carney had to say last week.
We won't transform our economy easily or in a few months. It will take some sacrifices, and it will take some time.
And I think a big word there that caught a lot of journalists' attention, a lot of political leaders' attention, was the word sacrifice. So when the budget comes out today, where do you think some of those sacrifices might come from?
Well, what they've indicated so far, and I know it's significant for your audience, is that the spending on what they are terming the operating side of government is going to decrease. And they identified in the platform of their campaign, for example, $15 billion on an annual basis of a gap that they think they need to close. So what does that mean over the next few years? Finally, the budget should, and I say should because I don't know for sure if it will, but should provide some of those answers. Are you looking at more than attrition, for example, to get there? Are you looking, they keep using the word workforce adjustment, like what kind of workforce adjustment does that look like? Is it just incentivizing people to retire early, or is it actually eliminating jobs? And what I'm told is behind the scenes, that answer to those questions has changed multiple times over the past few weeks. So there were things 2 months ago that were looking at cuts of 70,000 jobs or 80,000 jobs, and that migrated to somewhere around 15 or 16,000. And maybe over the weekend, because of the politics of this budget and the need to lean on the NDP, that number could shrink even further.
Interesting, and you bring that point up too. I know the Conservative leader, Pierre Poilievre, was quick to say, Canadians are already struggling. They don't need any more sacrifices, and he pinpointed to young Canadians. But Mark Carney didn't really suggest that it was going to be just towards young Canadians. Are you finding that the support from the other political leaders are supporting this, or what's the vibe from their standpoint?
Well, definitely in the case of the official opposition in the Conservatives, what they have said is that if this is a good budget in their determination, they are willing to support it. Conventionally, it's unheard of for the official opposition to support a budget, and certainly some of the demands that they've laid out ahead of the budget, including capping the deficit at $42 billion, the government has given no indication that it will be anywhere near there. Perhaps it might even be double that. So don't expect them, I think, to support the budget, which would be in line with what traditionally happens. Then you start looking to the Bloc Québécois. They also laid out some very specific demands, including one, boosting OAS for people between 65 and 67. That would be incredibly costly. So you've got to think the government's going to have a hard time meeting those demands, which maybe puts them aside as well as voting against the budget. So that leaves us with the same dance partner the Liberals have had for a number of years, right, in the New Democrats. And therein we have this very interesting kind of situation which leads many to speculate at the moment that an election could happen, only because the NDP leader himself might decide, I don't want an election, I don't want to force an election. It's not a good idea for Canadians or our party. But he has a caucus of 7, no official party status. They are disparate in many senses, and they may vote their own conscience, which means we could be in for a surprise election.
Interesting, and we need the opposition's leaders at least some support there to make sure that this budget goes through. And then on the opposite side of things, we talk about the sacrifices, but we're also going to be doing some spending as well, he's indicated.
Oh yeah, lots of spending, and that's the other thing I really got my eye on today, because the government has said, that the Liberals have said, we're going to do this thing where we separate our budget kind of the way we would a credit card payment versus a mortgage payment. So things that we deem to generate a return on investment will fall under one category, and then the other stuff under the other categories. So how high does spending, because they're going to use the word investment, and sure, it's investment. We'll see if it generates a return on investment. The jury's still out because we're so new into this mandate. But investment means spending. And they have signaled on multiple occasions, particularly over the last week and a half, that they are going to do generational investment, which to me means tons and tons of spending. So how high does that number go? How do they expect a return on that investment? What kinds of things are they spending money at? That will give us an idea of, if they do stay in office, what their priorities are. The clearest yet signal of what those priorities are.
Lots of anxious people waiting for that 4 p.m. timeline this afternoon. Vassy Kapelos, we always appreciate when you join us in studio.
Thanks so much, Will.
And a reminder, CTV News will have special coverage of the Budget 2025, hosted by Chief Anchor and Senior Editor Omar Sachedina and Chief Political Correspondent Vassy Kapelos. Coverage starts this afternoon at 4 p.m. on CTV News Channel and ctvnews.ca.